Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. We're going to be looking at asking questions.
Oh, yeah.
It's something we do all the time, but there's actually a real art to it.
Right.
If you really want to understand something or someone better. So we're going to be looking at a book that might not be on everyone's radar.
Okay.
It's called Fragetechnik Schnell Trainiert by Vera F. Birkenbihl, which translates to questioning techniques, quickly trained. Now, don't worry, we'll be talking about it in English.
Sure.
And although it focuses on sales and negotiations,
Yeah.
the principles can be applied to pretty much anything.
Well, one of the things that I thought was really interesting about Birkenbill's approach is she starts off with a really simple idea,
Okay.
which is he who asks leads.
Ooh, I like that.
And she really emphasizes how asking questions, not telling, puts you in the driver's seat of the conversation.
Yeah, and it's so easy to forget that.
It is.
Especially when things get a little heated,
Yeah.
like in a tough negotiation or a family disagreement, or even just trying to get information from customer service.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We often default to telling instead of asking.
Yeah.
I know I do it all the time. And Birkenbihl suggests that it might actually be because we were discouraged from asking questions as children.
Yes, absolutely. We're often taught to see asking questions as being disruptive or disrespectful, when actually it's the key to understanding, connecting, and ultimately getting what you want.
Yeah, and she has this really neat way of training ourselves to become better questioners.
Oh, really?
It's yes-no guessing games,
Okay.
which is like a workout for your questioning muscles.
Okay.
So you play with at least one other person,
Yeah.
and you try to figure something out using only yes or no questions.
I see.
But there's a twist.
Okay.
There are actually 4 possible answers.
All right.
Yes, no, apple pie, which stands for sorta,
Oh, apple pie. I like that.
and I don't know.
Okay.
So how do these games work?
So Birkenbill outlines 3 main categories. The first one is called the category rater. So let's say you're trying to guess a famous person.
Right.
Instead of just immediately jumping to a name, you would start with broad categories like, is this person alive? Or are they European? Something like that.
Okay, so it's about training yourself to think more strategically
Exactly.
before you jump to those specifics.
Yeah. And the next one are called Apfelkuchen games, which is literally apple pie games,
Okay.
which are basically short story puzzles that you try and figure out using yes or no questions.
I see.
And then finally, you apply these principles to actual real life scenarios.
Okay, let's unpack one of these apple pie games.
Right?
Can you give me an example?
Sure. One of my favorites is the man in the elevator.
Okay.
So imagine this. A man lives on the 24th floor of a high-rise building. Every morning, he takes the elevator all the way down to the ground floor to go to work.
Okay.
But every evening, he only takes the elevator up to the 18th floor and walks the rest of the way home.
Interesting. Okay. So
Right?
now my first instinct would be to jump to conclusions about his schedule or what might be on the 24th floor. But I know that I'm only allowed to ask yes or no questions.
Right. And this is where people get tripped up. They start making assumptions instead of asking those really basic fundamental questions. So let me ask you, is the reason related to the man's health?
That's a good question.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So we've ruled out health. Is the reason related to something about the elevator itself?
No, I don't think so either. So it must have something to do with the man himself.
You're getting warmer.
Yeah.
Now think about the man's ability to use the elevator fully. Is there something that might be limiting him?
Oh, interesting. Is the reason related to his ability to use the elevator?
Yes.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Is it something physical that prevents him from using the elevator to get to his floor?
Yes, you're on fire.
Okay, I think I got it. Is he a little person who can't reach the higher buttons in the elevator?
Bingo. You solved it.
And that's the beauty of these games. It makes you really break down the problem into smaller chunks. Yeah.
And question your assumptions.
Absolutely.
And think outside the box.
And Birkenbill uses this game to illustrate the importance of starting with those really big categories.
Yeah.
And confirming the most basic facts before you jump into the nitty-gritty details.
Right. So don't jump to the 24th floor button
Yeah.
before you've even confirmed that there is an elevator.
Exactly.
So these yes-no games are about being more mindful and less assumptive. But how do we take that from a game to an actual conversation?
Well, that's where Birkenbill's concept of the decision no comes in.
Okay.
She makes a really helpful distinction between the information no, which simply gives us facts, And the decision no, which is a flat-out rejection.
Okay, so like an information no would be like finding out that a store doesn't have a certain product in stock.
Right.
Whereas a decision no would be a customer saying, I'm not buying this.
Exactly. And to illustrate how to avoid these decision no's, she uses a role-playing game called Vacation Sales. The idea is that the salesperson needs to figure out what the client actually wants before even mentioning a destination.
So again, resisting that urge to jump into telling mode.
Right. Imagine you're the customer. Would you rather talk to a salesperson who bombards you with all these different features and destinations, assuming they know what you want, or someone who actually takes the time to understand your needs and desires?
Definitely the one who listens.
Yeah. The first one sounds like a recipe for frustration and probably a decision no.
For sure. And that leads us to Birkenbill's no-loss negotiation method.
Yes.
Which is all about turning that potential decision no into an opportunity for dialogue and understanding.
And she uses a really relatable example to explain it.
Okay.
It's a child asking for ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
So picture this. A child asks their mom, can I have some ice cream? The mom says no. The child, being persistent, says, why not?
Okay.
And the mom says, because you'll ruin your dinner. And the child says, but what if I eat all my dinner?
Well, that's classic. It's like that child is already a master negotiator.
Right. That, in a nutshell, is the no-loss negotiation method.
Okay.
It boils down to 3 steps.
Okay.
Step 1, you make your offer.
Okay.
This could be a proposal, a request, or even just stating your opinion. Step 2, when met with resistance, you ask why or why not.
Okay.
This forces the other person to actually explain their reasoning. In step 3, you ask what if, or assuming that, to offer up an alternative or compromise.
Right. So it's about showing that you're listening and that you're willing to negotiate.
Exactly. And it's all about understanding the why behind the no.
Yeah.
Once you understand that, you can start to explore those possibilities and come up with solutions that address everyone's concerns.
So we're not just talking about business negotiations. We're talking about all kinds of relationships.
All sorts.
It's about approaching any disagreement with curiosity rather than defensiveness.
Right.
Whether it's with a coworker, a family member, or even someone you disagree with on the internet.
Absolutely.
So this is already giving me a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the basics for a second.
Okay.
What's the strategy when it comes to open versus closed questions?
So open questions, like what are you looking for in a vacation, are great for gathering information and really building a connection.
Okay.
You create a space for the other person to share, which builds trust and understanding.
Right. And closed questions are more about confirming those details.
Exactly.
Like, do you prefer hot weather?
Yeah. It's useful for narrowing things down, making decisions, or getting to the point quickly.
Right. Like if you call a plumber because your sink is overflowing, you'd want to ask a closed question.
Right. You wouldn't say, tell me about your sink.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's all about choosing the right tool for the job. So we've got our questioning toolkit.
Yeah.
We've got the no-loss negotiation method for those tough decision no situations. What else do we need?
Well, one of the biggest pitfalls, as we saw in the elevator puzzle, is the danger of assumptions.
Oh, yeah.
Birkenbihl tells this funny story about teaching a seminar for the AOK, which is a German health insurance company, and she just assumed everyone knew what the acronym stood for.
Oh, no.
It's an easy mistake to make, but it just shows how important it is to be aware of our assumptions.
Absolutely. We all have those blind spots.
Yeah.
That can really lead to miscommunications.
Yes. So it's about constantly checking your assumptions and being willing to ask those clarifying questions.
So instead of just assuming you know what someone means, ask.
Yeah.
Like when you say busy, what does that actually look like for you?
Because busy can mean so many different things.
Exactly. And sometimes what we think is a simple shared understanding can actually be a point of confusion.
And it's not just about the words we use. It's about our whole mindset, approaching a conversation with genuine curiosity and a willingness to learn that can really make all the difference. It's about seeing every interaction as an opportunity for growth and understanding.
I like that. So you mentioned earlier that Birkenbihl applies these principles to real-life scenarios.
Yeah.
Let's dig into that a little.
Yeah.
How can our listeners use these techniques in their own lives beyond just sales and negotiation?
Well, I think one of the most powerful applications is in personal relationships. Imagine you're having a disagreement with your partner. Instead of getting defensive or trying to win the argument,
Huh.
You could use the no-loss negotiation method to try to understand their perspective.
Okay.
Start by asking, help me understand why you feel this way.
That's such a simple shift.
Yeah.
But it could completely change the dynamic of the conversation.
It takes the focus away from being right or wrong.
Right.
And puts it on actually understanding each other.
And it's not just about resolving conflicts. It's about deepening that connection.
Exactly.
By asking those open-ended questions and really listening to the answers. You're showing your partner that you value their thoughts and feelings.
It reminds me of that time you mentioned struggling to communicate with your team at work.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine using these techniques to uncover what the real issue was.
Instead of just assuming everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. Asking questions like, what are your biggest challenges right now? Or how can we improve communication on this project can really help you get to the root of the issue and come up with a solution together.
So we're talking about replacing judgment with curiosity.
Yeah.
And seeing every interaction as an opportunity to learn and grow.
And that's a really powerful shift.
It is.
It's about recognizing that we all have something to teach each other.
Yeah.
Even when we disagree.
Like that time I was trying to get my friend to try this new restaurant.
Yeah.
They were totally against it. So instead of just saying, come on, it's so good, I asked, what is it about trying new restaurants that you don't like?
Yeah.
And it turns out they had a bad experience years ago and they were worried about food sensitivities.
Right.
So by asking, I was able to actually understand and we were able to find a compromise.
Yeah. You know, that's amazing how much we can learn when we actually try to understand instead of just trying to persuade.
Right.
And Birkenbihl makes this really interesting point about arguments in general.
Okay.
She says that most arguments aren't actually about facts or logic. They're about trying to prove that our reality is the only reality.
Oh, I see that all the time online.
Right.
It's like everyone's in their own little echo chamber.
Exactly.
And no one's even trying to listen to the other side.
And that kind of thinking can lead to a lot of division and frustration.
Yeah.
But Birkenbihl suggests a different approach.
Okay.
What if instead of trying to win an argument,
Right.
we try to actually understand the other person's perspective?
Yeah.
What if we replace judgment with curiosity?
So instead of saying you're wrong, we could say, help me understand why you see it that way.
Exactly. And you never know. You might even learn something new, even if you don't agree. Just understanding where someone else is coming from can help you communicate your own ideas better.
It's like that saying, be kind. For everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. We never really know what's going on in someone else's life.
Yeah.
Or what experiences have shaped their views.
And when we approach conversations with that kind of empathy and understanding,
Right.
it can really change how we interact with each other.
Yeah. Imagine how much less conflict there would be if we all made an effort to actually listen and understand each other.
Okay, so we've covered a lot.
We have.
The power of asking questions, avoiding assumptions.
Yeah, the no-loss negotiation method.
What are some practical steps our listeners can take?
Yeah, how can we start using this today?
Well, you don't have to master it all at once.
Okay.
Just start small. Next time you're in a conversation, pay attention to how much you're assuming. Challenge yourself to ask clarifying questions.
Okay.
Instead of just nodding along, really dig deeper.
So like if someone says they're stressed,
Yeah.
instead of just giving generic advice,
Right.
you could ask what's causing you the most stress.
Exactly. Or what would make you feel less stressed? It's about being genuinely interested in getting to the root of the problem.
And it's not just about the words you use, it's about your attitude.
Yeah.
Approaching every conversation with curiosity and willingness to learn.
And that can help you in every area of your life, from personal relationships to your career.
So Birkenbihl has some really interesting insights about how to use this in the workplace.
Yeah.
What are some key takeaways for our listeners who are thinking, how does this work professionally?
One of the most important things is team dynamics.
Okay.
Think about how much more productive meetings would be if everyone focused on understanding each other's perspectives.
Right.
Imagine a workplace where it's safe to ask questions, challenge assumptions,
Yeah.
and have these open and honest conversations.
Oh, that would be incredible.
Right.
I think so many problems at work come from miscommunication or a lack of understanding.
Exactly. And by using the techniques we've been talking about,
Right.
you can actually create a more collaborative and productive work environment.
So for example, instead of just presenting your ideas to your colleagues, you could try asking, What are your thoughts? Or what potential problems do you see?
I love that. It's about inviting that feedback
Yeah.
and creating a space where everyone feels heard and respected.
And it's not just for meetings.
Right.
These ideas can be used every day.
And like when you're giving someone a new task,
Right.
you could ask them, what kind of support do you need to do this well?
Which shows that you care
Mm-hmm.
and helps you figure out problems before they happen.
Exactly. It's about being proactive instead of reactive.
And it's about empowering people to take ownership of their work.
And when people feel empowered and supported,
Right.
they're going to be more engaged and productive.
It's a win-win.
So we've talked about personal relationships. We've talked about the workplace.
Where else can we use this?
One area that Birkenbihl doesn't really talk about
Okay.
is how we get information and form our own opinions.
Oh, yeah.
Think about how much information we see every day.
Yeah. From social media,
Right from the news.
podcasts.
It can be overwhelming. And it's easy to get caught in those echo chambers
It is.
where you only see information that you already agree with.
And that can lead to a very limited view of the world.
Exactly. But this is where asking questions comes in.
Yeah.
What if we look at the news or social media with the same curiosity and critical thinking?
So instead of just reading or watching,
Yeah.
we should be actively questioning it.
Ask yourself, who wrote this? What's their goal? What information is missing? What other opinions are there?
So we should be more careful about what we believe online,
Exactly.
which is more important now than ever.
And it's not just about questioning the information. It's about questioning your reaction to it. Ask, why am I feeling this way? What am I assuming? Is there another way to think about this?
So it's like using the no-loss negotiation method on ourselves.
Yes. Instead of getting caught up in your emotions,
Right.
you can take a step back and try to understand why you're feeling that way. And that can make you more open-minded, more empathetic.
More informed.
So it's not just about asking other people questions.
Right.
It's also about asking yourself questions.
Yeah.
And becoming more aware of your own biases. You know, it's like Birkenbihl says, we're all kind of living in these little bubbles.
Oh, yeah.
We surround ourselves with people who agree with us.
Mm-hmm.
We only see news that supports our beliefs.
And
And we try to ignore anything that challenges our worldview.
it's true. We're always building these little echo chambers where no one disagrees with us.
And the problem with that is we start to think that our view is the only view.
Right. Which obviously can cause all sorts of problems.
Exactly. Miscommunication, conflict, and just a general lack of understanding for other people.
Like you don't know what you don't know.
And that's where questions come in.
Okay.
By asking the right questions, we can step outside those echo chambers and connect with people in a more meaningful way.
So it's not just about agreeing. It's about actually understanding.
Exactly. And even when we disagree with someone, we can still learn from them.
That's a good point.
It's about changing our mindset from, I'm right, you're wrong, to let's figure this out together.
It reminds me of this time I was working with someone,
Okay.
and they had a totally different way of doing things.
Yeah.
At first, I was against it. I just didn't think it would work.
Yeah.
But instead of just shutting them down, I asked, why do you think this is the best way?
Yeah.
And I actually learned a lot.
Right.
We were able to take both of our ideas
Mm.
and come up with something even better.
It's amazing how that works when you come at it with curiosity instead of being defensive.
It really is.
Yeah.
We always think of arguments as something you have to win.
Right.
But what if we thought of them as a way to learn and grow?
It's like that saying, the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled.
Ooh, I like that.
When we ask questions, we're not just trying to get information. We're trying to learn and grow.
So to wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a little challenge.
Okay.
Think about a disagreement you've had recently, maybe with a coworker, or a friend, or a family member.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of worrying about who was right,
Yeah.
ask yourself, what could you have learned if you had been more curious and made fewer assumptions?
That's a great question.
And what questions could you have asked to really understand their point of view?
It's something we can all think about.
Because being able to ask good questions is the key to good communication, to building relationships, and to understanding ourselves and the world better.
It can really change your life.
And it all starts with asking.
So go out there and ask those questions. You might be surprised at what you find.
And remember, this is a journey. There's always more to learn and more to discover.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.